and then we can jump straight into the discussion, which is the future of art residencies. First and foremost, I would like to thank my team for organizing this conversation between myself and yourself. So thanks to Rico, thanks to Valerie and everybody.
Yeah.
And also thank you for agreeing to be part of this conversation, which I'm sure it's a platform that we've created many years ago. But because of COVID-19, we have now gone digital. And that's give us trying to see how, as a national institution, how we can cope in this so-called new normal, which is not normal.
Yes.
So first and foremost, I just want to say Ronald Muchatuta is a Zimbabwean-born artist, currently working and practicing in Cape Town. And he specializes in drawing, paintings, and mosaic. And he began his career at an age of 16 as with ceramics at Rose Band Pottery in Harare in Zimbabwe in 2001. And Muchatuta was mentored at the Gallery Delta and under the watchful eye of none other than Helen Biros, who has mentored so many artists that includes the likes of Mishek Masamvu, Gina Maxim, and Hilary Kashiri, who has also been under the armpits of this great person and the great artist, one of the greatest Zimbabwean artists we've ever had. And I mean, you are lucky to have come on under the armpits of Helen, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
And he is recognized as a master of mosaic, and he has exhibited extensively in South Africa, from Spears Arts Academy in Cape Town, where he completed his studies in 2012. He is primarily works through mediums of drawings, paintings, and creation of mosaics. And Ronald has been in Cape Town for a long time, and his work is very powerful in my own opinion, and he's one of those great Zimbabwean artists that we miss showcasing him in Zimbabwe. So without saying much, I would like to say welcome to Harare Conversations, Mr. Muchatuta.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Going straight into the topic of the day.
My audio is all right. Sorry, can you hear me properly?
No, your audio is good. Your audio is good.
Okay.
We can hear you properly.
Okay.
Well, the topic of the day, the future of art residencies. I know that before you migrated into South Africa, you used to work and practice from Gallery Delta. And now you have a home in Cape Town where you're working and practicing from. And looking at the events that have taken place in the past 7 months with regards to the COVID-19, where do you think we are going in terms of art residencies that provides platform for artists to work together, platform for artists to move away from their own working space into a new environment where artists would always work from?
So I think that I would say I had to adjust a lot. There was a lot of adjusting. And I think that there was a lot of panic and pandemonium that happened when we just got into lockdown, especially in South Africa. And before we got into lockdown, I made sure that I would have enough material to work with, depending on how long the whole lockdown is going to be. I would say one of the things that came to me was how people pre-1980 I remember Helen, when we were students, she used to tell us that because of the sanctions that happened in Zimbabwe at that time, she couldn't get, they couldn't, artists or institutions of that nature couldn't get material from overseas, like paints and stuff like that. So they had to make do by using newspapers and stuff like that. So my mindset was more like, I need to make use of what's around me. So I started working a lot with a lot of newspaper, using the techniques that she taught me around that time. Answering your question, I'd say I just came out of a workshop. I just came out of a workshop with A4, A4 Foundation in Cape Town. And they were in partnership with Vansa. And we were doing a workshop on conflict transformation resolution with other institutions from Syria and Cyprus. And the whole idea was that we were going to do a workshop with artists from the world, and how we could use the digital realm without having the access to physical engagement, And within that context, we tried to figure out ways of engaging with each other without, and I feel like the future of residencies would be, like, there will be a lot of economic decisions that will be made as to, is it really important for somebody to fly over here when they can do the workshop online? Like, as how we are speaking now on Zoom. Is it really important for, obviously the artists and the people engaging, they need to be paid. So those are some of the realities where I've seen that in many cases, certain costs and extended expenditures in programs have to be cut down, and that the online and digital realm makes it much more easier and make more sense. But besides that, I would say that there's going to be new ways of engaging with material. I think most of it is going to be philosophical, challenging the way we think. And also, I think working from our respective places too.
Well, first, you spoke about your conversation with Helen, that
Yeah.
this is the second time when Zimbabwe is actually getting sanctions, because in the 60s, during the UDI, the Unilateral Declaration of Independence, Zimbabwe was put under sanctions. And
Yes.
the people of Zimbabwe at that time were able to bust the sanctions. And today, Zimbabwe is still, again, in another sanction. And that has also caused other artists like you to work and practice in the diaspora.
Yes.
And what has diaspora taught you in terms of your resilience as an artist? Because sometimes when artists move from one place to another, they really get affected by that movement. Has that impacted in your work?
It impacted me in many ways. I think first and foremost, I had to, like, one thing I love about South African artists is that they look at the roots of, for example, their languages, traditions, and cultures. And when they make work or titles, they always title their work with their languages. So I've always pushed the agenda of titling my work in Shona. The reason to connect with the roots. Culture is constantly evolving, but the roots stay the same. and you can't denounce that. But I think for me, over the years, it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of failure, a lot of, I'd say, um, a lot of failure, a lot of situations where you're figuring out, like, am I in the right place? Am I, am I doing the right thing? Or am I hanging out with the right people? Or am I working the right way? And sometimes it's just like, I think for me, there's always been a case where I said to myself, like, you know what, just keep on moving, even if people don't see you, or if people are not taking a chance to take note of you. Just keep on moving, just keep on creating. I've always been passionate about the work before the audience. So it's always been something for me, because I always believed that I'm a fan of art before I'm an artist. So the work has to make. So that's always been, how I move.
Just going back to your A4 workshop,
Yes.
do you think contemporary art has a role to play in conflict resolution?
Well, now I think what the problem is, like the geographical location as to where the contemporary art is being made, is a little bit tricky. So, for example, if you're thinking about contemporary art in Africa versus Europe or other places, sometimes in Africa, we have to always consider the commercial engine that funds, the motive of what we do. If you're a prominent artist in Africa and you're engaging in the contemporary arts, sometimes your voice speaks more, and your voice speaks more, and your reputation speaks more, that the institutions that back you and support you have no choice but to follow suit. Whereas in other places, there's this idea that there's been cultures of resistance before. So resistance is something that will always be embraced. Whereas I feel like in Africa, resistance is always something that is looked at as a negative, rebellious act, to say, well, you are an artist in Africa, but what does your rebellion mean? Are you rebellious against the state, or are you rebellious against the institutions that define who you are? So let us know where you stand, and then we'll quickly cancel you. Whereas in other regions, contemporary art facilitated the growth for culture. If you think about the Dada artists, we wouldn't have pop art if Dada artists were there in the scene. We wouldn't have, forward-thinking people if there were people who were willing to destroy and redefine what the system is.
Okay, going back to you talked earlier on about the digital, that the residencies might have to go digital because considerations of the cost and all that. Do you think an artist like yourself, do you think it will change your medium in terms of as a painter, as a mosaic artist, if you are going to engage in a residence in a digital world like we are doing? Do you think a new language will come out of your practice?
Definitely, yes. I think for me, I've always been somebody who believed in the traditional application of, art, painting and stuff like that. It's just that how do you remix it? I don't want to use redefine. How do you remix the content that has been brought to you and make it your own? It's a bit challenging because there's film, there's virtual reality, like people are able to draw on the screen of whatever system they're using. People are able to paint now. But there's always the love for painting, like using a brush, digging into the paint, mixing it, creating effects and stuff like that, something that digital work cannot render. I think for me, it's much more the philosophical and the thinking. The fact that I am stuck in my space, I can't move. I'm forced to react to the feeling that I can't travel. I'm forced to the reality that I can't have a physical engagement with the people in the workshop and the residency that I'm going to be part of. I can't have that. So how do I engage? Like, how do I redefine engagement, human engagement? I mean, I would use the systems that able me to communicate, but also should I deny the traditional methods that I've known for a while because the digital realm is in existence?
Wow. I mean, this is really powerful because, it's like we did an exhibition a few years ago, which was entitled Pixels of Ubuntu. That our pixels as humans are pixelating because what you have from a camera, they're pixels. It's either they enhance you or they will distort you.
Exactly, yes.
So do you think this new era, is it going to distort all that human engagement you're talking about? Or bring in another new human engagement?
I think if you're somebody who's working, it'll make you more effective. If you, at the end of the day, all of this is about thinking, creative thinking. Creative thinking is always about sharpening your thoughts, sharpening the way you engage, sharpening how the ideas that are brought to you and how you know. So yeah, it's just about redefining your thought processes and making them more effective. When this thing happened, I was thinking about when the COVID pandemic started. I was thinking about the Spanish flu in the early 1900s, and our ancestors went through that already. But if you think about it, like Gustav Klimt died from the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
I think at that time they didn't really have alternatives the way we have now. But I think that with the brilliance of art, you are able to redefine your immediate realities. I think that situations always bring frustration. And sometimes the frustration, you have to make a conscious decision to say, am I going to live with this frustration or am I going to make it work for me? I mean, Zimbabweans are legends. They always make things work for themselves. It's just how clever you are at it. You can't dwell on, you can't draw on your immediate realities if you know you have to make them work for you. Yeah.
Because I mean, it's earlier on you talked about remixing. It's a word which I want to, which will take us back to Africa Remix.
Oh yeah.
And
I remember
also earlier, I mean, during the week, I'm sure on Monday, I was having a podcast with Adama from Molisken. And one of the words which I also talked about was the remix.
Yeah.
That this is the moment for us to be able to remix our practice, our programs, our exhibition. And it's a moment, like you rightly say, that quoting the Zimbabweans, that Zimbabweans are legends. For me, it's an opportunity where I see kind of post-COVID-19 as a fertile ground for creativity.
Yes.
So that, just to quote what you have just said here, for immediate realities and creative thinking, that we as creatives, we have to remain resolute. And because many people are seeing challenges out of COVID-19, but there's a need for us to be able to see opportunities out of COVID-19. A good example is like when COVID-19 arrived here at the National Gallery, well, I mean, we were caught unaware. This whole digital realm and moving Harare conversations from a physical conversation to a digital conversation, it's kind of a new reality that we have also moved this program into this new new digital rush. And but how are we going to as people working and practicing in the continent to realize the future of these residencies? Because time zones between America, Europe, and Asia and Africa, it's so huge.
So there's some close friends of mine. There's a girl called Kotrelwa. She used to work at Zeitsmoker. People from Vansa. Who else? Michaela Limbres, who used to work at Vansa. Precious, who used to work at Vansa too. She's from Malawi. Powerful women, very, very, very powerful women. They started in association with Greatmo and Vansa. They started a 24-hour workshop. So they invited people. This was during the pandemic. They invited people to, and they'll have live talks about the art world and stuff like that. 24 hours. So any person will come in there, they'll talk, they'll nominate someone else, they come in, they talk, and it became a cycle, you know. It even got to a point where I had to sleep like 1 o'clock in the morning while people are still talking, and I had to wake up and check like who's talking now, you know. So basically the prominence, the brilliance of this, the brilliance of the time that we're in is based on streaming. So the internet allows us to stream. So for example, if you go on Spotify, Deezer, Apple, Tidal Music, you are able to, you don't really have to download the music into your phone or your device. You can stream the music via Wi-Fi. So what they did was that they were streaming content online, but in a live context. I've never seen that done before. And they kept on inviting international people to engage, you know? And I feel like that's the greatest solution I could think with engaging with the international community. I think if anyone wants to check what I just spoke about, it's you go on YouTube and you look for Art Meets TV. All that content is there. That's how they did it. Art Meets TV. I think for me, I think that that's a huge vehicle that people should engage with. I think that's where we're moving, you know, like I've heard of galleries opening 24, some galleries who open 24 hours, you know, Sunday to Sunday. But it's another thing when you have a virtual space that engages with creative thinkers 24 hours, you know. So it becomes a machine that caters to everybody globally.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I'll be in a place of giving back. I'll be a mentor. I think I can't leave my visual literacy to waste. I should give it on to other people.
Yeah.
I think that one has to figure out ways in which you impart the younger generation. I'll be honest with you, I think that reading art is very difficult than explaining it. Reading art is very, very difficult than explaining it. And why I say so is that you always have to figure out the right words to use in terms of the aesthetics of the art itself. So it's like you are able to talk about the mood of the artist. Like you can tell if the artist was making the painting, if they were sick or they didn't feel like it, or if they were inspired or they were just on a roll that day. And you develop ways in which you're able to figure out, even if it's an abstract painting, you're able to understand like, okay, this is the mood. Because usually visual literacy is always about the mood, the spiritual aspect behind the work. So I think my knowledge around that is something that I'd like to impart in the 5 to 10 years. I don't really care much about the fame and prominence. I think if it comes, it comes. But I think I don't mind sharing the knowledge of wealth that I have, you know. Yeah.
Looking back at the Triangle workshop, Tulipangwe, Tupelo,
Yes.
Black Factory, Pachipangwe, and then you have got Kona in Kenya, you have got Insaka in Zambia, and many other residencies that are dotted across the continent.
Yes.
Do you think they will be able to adjust? I know that Pachipangwe died here in Zimbabwe. But now we have got a lot of artist-run spaces. That includes Village Unu, that includes the Animal Farm, that includes the Gareth Nyandoro, that includes Zimbanete, that includes Jelela Art Station, and many others across the continent. Do you think they have a future?
So are you asking me if I have a future or there's a future?
No. Do you think these spaces, do they have a future?
Of course, of course. Not anybody, not everyone is not anyone who's like, you can't teach somebody how to sing. You can't teach somebody how to make art. You nature them, and this is what these spaces, advocate. Not everybody has an opportunity to go to a prestigious art school. And even sometimes art schools, they water down the talent. You can tell the students, you can tell that student came out from that institution. That student came out from there. Like you can tell the hand. But I think that with mentorship programs and studio spaces of that nature, especially the names that you brought up, they cut the deficiency. They make sure that the thirst is watered. I would have loved to be a student that time. I would have loved to be that student that time. All these students, like now, I would have loved to be a student now, because the time I started, it was crazy.
Yeah.
For me, I had my own personal situation. So I had to say, like, okay, are you going to be an artist or are you going to be this? And I think that was something that I spoke about at the Stellenbosch Academy. You remember?
Oh, yes. I remember, yes.
Yeah, I had to speak and say, like, am I going to be this or am I going to be that? And I think that as the people who are starting these studios, we don't really care about how much money they make to create their studios or these things. As long as their spirit is genuine as to how they're going to impact the youth. Are they being selfless in the process? Do they mean it when they say they're empowering the youth and whatsoever? The resources that they have, are they administrating those resources in full effect for the emancipation of the youth? Because the youth has to, Africa cannot propel to its fullest context if the youth are not on point. The youth have to be, the same way as Europe and, these other places. African youth they deserve to have all the resources coming to them. And it's a saddening thing that you have that situation in Nigeria now, because it means that somehow, we're doing a disservice to the youth. Most of the uprisings in Africa were conducted by the youth because there was fresh thinking. They were fresh thinking, and they were like, you know what? Nah, we need to dethrone the system. We need to do this. We need to do that. And I think that the people who are administrating these studios and stuff like that, they need to make sure that they support these artists to the fullest. And I'm not only talking about just them facilitating and giving paints and whatever. They need to also look at the personal realities that the students are going through. Because when I was at Gallery Delta, there were moments where I was homeless. There were moments where I was kicked out of people's houses. There were moments where, maybe I'll go to sleep without food. No one would give me bus fare to go to Gallery Delta. But I knew that on Saturday, if I don't get to Gallery Delta, if I don't come, I am not, the next week I might not be part of the lesson, or I might be kicked out. So it's like, we need to nurture our people or young people, not only from the functionality, but also it's like the psychological aspect. You know, like you're dealing with kids who are being abused by their parents psychologically because the parents are reacting to the reality of what Zimbabwe is going through, or South Africa, or whatever.
Yeah.
So they dump that on their children. Maybe the child is talented, but then when they get there, it's going to affect their performance, you know? So it's like you have to not only just create an infrastructure or money or whatever, like, you know, maybe create a session in there where you just bring in a psychiatrist and speak to them. I'm sorry I'm talking a lot, but
No,
I'm
because
just digging deep, you know. Yeah.
No, because this is what we want to hear from you as Ronald, because I mean, we have never had this moment. And I would like to say that, I mean, the moment we had at Stellenbosch was limited. It was before this
Situation. Yeah.
situation. If it was during this situation, it could have live streamed like we're doing. We're also live streaming at the same time, as much as we are conversing here. Other people are also listening from our YouTube channel. But
Of course,
it's a great moment for us to be able to discuss about the journeys of artists and how that residency and that shaped who Ronald is today from Gallery Delta.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you're not the only one people. And today around the city, both in Harare and in Bulawayo, and I know that Charles Bebe is also setting up another artist-run space, and same with Charles Nkomo setting up another artist space in Bulawayo. So those journeys are also very good for the audience and the listeners who are listening, for them to understand that Ronald Muchatuta did not just wake up and become who he is, but there has been a journey for him to get where.
There were hands. There were hands. There were, you know, there were hands. There were hands that. There were hands that nurtured this person that you see.
Yeah,
I agree to that.
yeah, because there's a question here. Somebody, greetings NGZ. Can an artist residence program be completely virtual?
Yes, it can. It can.
What
Definitely
I
can.
mean, we discussed earlier on what could come out of your practice if you are going to do a residence virtual, and will it change the medium into video artist, or you know, from being a painter into this new reality?
So I can look at it from two different ways. I can look at it from a place of privilege, and I can look at it from a place of people who don't have the privilege. So if I was an artist and I'm broke, I have no money, and I want to be part of a virtual exhibition or residency, what would I do? So in South Africa, you can have a WhatsApp bundle for a month, which is maybe 30 Rand. In that WhatsApp bundle, I can be part of a WhatsApp group where we talk about the residency, the participation and stuff like that. I might not have the Wi-Fi to go live and do Zoom meetings as we are doing now, but I can create content and I can share on my WhatsApp stories for my people to see. I can create content to put on the group too. So it is possible. It's just that how are you creative with the medium you're using? I think that sometimes as artists in Africa, we try to define our circumstances by the realities that we face. As painful as they are, we should overcome them constantly. And I think that, you know, for example, not everybody can afford 5G internet. You know, that's a reality. But everybody can afford a WhatsApp bundle for the whole month. But you could be more effective with the WhatsApp bundle than someone who has 5G. So I think that answering that question, artists can go virtual. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just have to be effective. That's all it is.
Creative. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. To the listeners out there, if there's anybody with a burning question to pose to our speaker, Mr. Ronald Muchatuta, you are open. Say that you can type out your question, then I can read it to you, and also notify us who you are and where contacting us from, so that at least we can also see where you are from, and we go ahead.
Before the questions, I want to congratulate you for being the national, the director for the National Gallery.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you know, I think that it's a very smart move, and yeah, you're also one of the legends too. So respect.
I look forward to working with all of you, and about you having a solo show at the National Gallery. And I'm sure I would like to pose that question back to you to say, can we have a conversation with regards to this?
Of course, definitely.
A solo show, and possibly to think ahead in the next 3 to 4 years, and to see how we can realize, because I know that we have never shown here.
Yeah.
And I think going back to our conversation, it is a moment for us to reflect and to see the possibilities in this so-called new normal.
Of course.
Yeah.
My doors are open to engagement, you know, from people from Zimbabwe in many cases. Yeah. Open.
Okay. Thank you. Then there's a question from Wallen Mapondera, who is saying, how is quality maintained or controlled through virtual art residencies?
It's a complicated question because not everybody. Okay. I'll give you an example. So the workshop we did, can can you give me a minute? Just not a minute, but just 10 seconds so I can show you.
Yeah. No problem.
Sorry, sorry for that.
No problem.
But I wanted to show you something that I did almost, I would say, 12 years ago. So this postcard here,
Yeah.
the paper itself, I did it at Great Mall.
Oh, wow.
And we learned how to make paper at a workshop.
Recycled, yes.
Yes. And I made this postcard here.
Yeah.
And I created this postcard so that, and the thing was that when I made this postcard, it was more like, because we did the workshop at Great Mall, we were learning how to work with paper, recycled paper and stuff like that. But some of the postcards I had made then, I had sold them. But this one, I had it for a very long time. So when I made this, one of the things about that workshop I told you just now is that, for example, this part here, there's this part that has a lot of saturated colors and stuff like that. Looks like pointillism and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
That was my response to conflict, because conflict has a lot of energy, busyness, and stuff like that. And one of the things that we decided to do in the residency is that the people in the workshop / residency is that we are going to post things to each other via mail.
Oh, wow.
And the people in the workshop, you post this to that person. That person is going to add the contents there, and then they send it, so it becomes a chain reaction, you know. But then also people are just posting, you know. So it can be a 6-month or a year thing, you know. It doesn't really have to be like standard
Quality.
But when it goes back to quality, as what Wallen asked, I think that quality might be just, if I need to broaden his question, I'll say that quality should be the process rather than the content. So the process is just like, for example, here, okay, I have this postcard, but I wanted to get to Cyprus. But if I send this postcard via the post office, sometimes maybe it can be lost in the process. It can disappear. But if I send it via DHL,
you're sure it
exactly. So that's quality. So that's quality in its own self. But also quality can be the content in what is being fed. It's not really about the material we're trying to create, but it's also how the people who are engaging with each other, how are they feeding off that quality? So quality is not just about like, I need to paint in these expensive paints, or I need to do this. No. Sometimes the quality is just like somebody coming in and writing a very important poem, like a nice poem. That's quality. Quality could be sending that postal card or information via DHL rather than Postnet or the post office. It gets there on time. quality can be, I say something nice to the person I sent. So with virtual reality, I think that we constantly are bombarding ourselves with the digital reality of what things could be, but we are forgetting where we came from. I remember in Zimbabwe, I used to send a telegram to my mother. That was quality virtual reality.
At
My
that
mom
time.
used to say, at that time, yeah, my mom used to be like, yo, do you have money in school? Because I was in boarding school. Do you have money in boarding school? I'm like, Mom, I don't have I don't have money. And she'll send me like $20 in 1998, and $20 was a lot of money.
So yeah.
But because, yes, but because there's the virtual reality at that time manifested in the context of the immediate desires that I needed. It became quality.
So that was the virtual reality at that time, the EMS.
Exactly. Yes.
And to get there in time, and
Get there in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have got Deepa, who is contacting us from United States of America. Says, my question for the artist is, what is 2 things you want people to absorb from your artworks?
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is that I operate from a place of emotional aspect. So it's like I'm thinking every time I make work, I'm always thinking about the emotional characteristics of, the process or the work I'm making. If I am engaging in subject matter or a certain type of, for example, if there's a muse, I'm working on a muse or a model. I'm not looking at the body, I'm looking at the emotions, So sometimes people with my work, they confuse the subject versus the emotion. Yeah. So that's the I'm very passionate about Africa. I'm really, really passionate about Africa. Times the realities of Africa we tend to contradict ourselves a lot. So our intentions are pure, but sometimes our realities defer our intentions. So we are always questioning. For example, I was actually thinking about this the day before. I feel like we are negotiating all the time. We're not owning the place. We're negotiating, as African people, especially African people in the art world in Africa. We are negotiating. We're not saying like, yo, this is what we want and this is what we're gonna do. We're negotiating because the table is corrupted.
Is it also the negotiating you're talking about? I want to look at it from a point of view. There's ownership of content. That we're always
I'm happy that you brought that up.
Because today, I mean, we are doing this Zoom art conversations. We have to buy the space for us to be able to do this from United States of America. And there's no kind of sense of ownership and I've repeatedly said that we've remained passengers in our own ship.
Mm. You've said this at the Stellenbosch talks. You've said this before also, I remember.
Yeah.
I'll speak my truth. We don't own our culture.
Mm.
And when I say that, I'm saying that the distribution of it, not the engagement. We definitely engage with our work, you know.
Not the distribution.
I think that when I say we don't own the culture, I mean that we don't have a lot of ownership in terms of galleries that push contemporary African art that are owned by African people.
Mm.
We don't have a lot of contemporary, I wouldn't even want to say contemporary. I would say African collectors,
Mm.
you know, we don't have a lot. And when I say cultural ownership, I'm talking about the fact that who dictates the prices, who dictates the value of the work, who dictates where the work ends up. Like, you know, like we're not part of those conversations.
Mm.
We are part of the conversations when the work is hot, it's nice, it's great. Like, oh, did you see so and so? Is it doing well? Like, you know, like, but like, am I there when the work becomes £500,000? Am I there in the picture? Or even not even me, like, are people of my kind there at the auction houses? You know, like these auction houses is, you know, like that determine the value.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but how do you bridge that gap?
I think there are some people who are trying to do it, but they're not doing it in the institutional aspect of it. I'll bring up names to you. So there's an art collector. His name is called Swiss Beats. He's a music producer and stuff like that. He's a huge collector of Black art in America. He makes sure he taps into understanding the pulse of where Black art is going. In terms of African art, he also is in there. He's knowing, you know. I think my main concern is more about like the underground artists, like, you know, we're talking about the basement, like, you know, deep down there, like, because the ones who are down there, they need to be nurtured, they need to be watered, they need
they're thirsty.
They need that support. I wouldn't say thirsty, I'll say that they are, yeah, thirsty is I would say they need a lot of nurturing. They need, they need to understand that there's a process. You can't just go to 0 to 100. You need to go in between. You need to suffer. You need to, you know, like, you need to deal with a lot of things to get to that point where you say, you know, I mean, some artists might not agree with my statement, but I think that you need to pay your dues.
Well, I would want to summarize what you're saying by a poem by a Zimbabwean poet called Mazambane. Mazambane said, "A tree does not bend for you to climb on it. Or if you want to climb a tree, you don't start from the top of the tree. You have to start from the bottom of the tree.
Bottom.
So it's exactly what you are saying with, let's say, those artists who are in the basement, that there is a process. It is a journey. From what our discussion earlier on, you were talking about, you were homeless and you would make sure that at least come weekend, you must be at Gallery Delta. So it is that journey that mentored what Ronald Muchatuta is today. Ronald Muchatuta did not just arrive or did not want the tree to bend for him to climb. Or he did not just climb the tree from the top. He had to climb the tree from the bottom to get to it. So it is that what younger artists need to understand, that journey is a painful journey.
I think that it's funny that we're talking about this now. There's fame associated with it. There's not only fame, it's like prominence and all these things. And these young artists, they aspire to the big artists. They want to make as much money as a big artist. But they don't want to go through the trenches. And when I say trenches, I'm talking about like, if you send your CV to 10 galleries and they reject you, what are you going to do after that? Like if you have a solo exhibition and nothing is sold, what are you going to do after that? Because you know that you have to pay your rent. If you see your fellow friends or compatriots in the art world doing financially well, more than you, what are you going to do? And the thing is that they don't understand that it's a journey in the sense that not every road is designed the same. Like when they say stay in your lane, you stay in your lane. Staying in your lane means that you understand the dynamics of the reality of what you're going through. I am in South Africa not only because I'm here, but I'm also in competition with South African artists too, as a Zimbabwean artist. I know the privileges that South African artists have. I also know the institutional xenophobia that comes with being in South Africa. But I never complain. I cut the tree down the best way I can. And I make sure that it has to be effective as better. That is my philosophy. I don't come into this world thinking that someone is going to do something for me. I have to go and chase it. And I think young artists need to think that way. No one is going to come to you with a silver platter and say, yo, man, we're going to do this for you. Yeah, they're going to do that. But yeah, there's a cost. There's a cost. Yeah. So that's the reality.
Okay, I'm sure there's another question here, which is talking about will the virtual realm retain the plasticity of the artwork?
No, I don't think so. I think that it's different seeing a painting with impasto. It's different to see an artwork with threading.
Yeah.
The texture. I'm talking about texture.
Yeah.
You can't. The physical engagement with an artwork is very unique. It's not
Yeah.
Virtual, I think virtual is more for commercial purposes.
All right. We've got Asanda. Another question from Asanda saying, what is a lesson that you treasure and learn from the path of paying your dues?
Of what?
Of paying your dues.
It's actually my lady saying that question. She's probing the interview. Let's see. You know, there's something that Helen said to me, but you know, I don't want to use this word, but it's like, you know, yeah, Helen had her crazy moments, or she would say crazy things. You know, yeah, and Helen would say, "We live in a world where what is yours is mine, and what is mine is mine." I had to learn that a little bit later in my life. That's one of them. And then I think that I would say it's very difficult to speak about things. I think, can you please rephrase that question again? Because, yeah.
What is the lesson that you treasure and learn from the path of paying your dues? Pamakafamba rwendo urwu, ndezvipi zvamunokoshesa murwendo irworwu?
Okay, I understand. And Nutenda. Relationships over money. Reputation over money. One of the things that saved me the most in this country, especially South Africa, is that I created a good reputation where I didn't have to pay for things. And sometimes, you know, some people are like, oh, that is not possible. Oh, how did you get there? Oh, I would want to know. It's just being genuine and saying, like, you honor your word. Honor your word in everything you do. Say, I'm going to do this, and you do it. Mkuru wangu, I had to be in a situation where I had to work my way to get there. You know, like in South Africa, I would say, you know, regardless of the xenophobic stuff that people talk about, but they are very good people in South Africa. And sometimes the good people in South Africa, they don't get the spotlight because sometimes the spotlight is always on the negative. Yes. So for me, it's more like there were people who had nothing to do with the art world who helped me a lot. And I always honor those people, you know. I think that based on that question, I'll say that, you know, I value relationships based on the idea that I don't have to pay for things when the necessary situation comes, because they know I owe you, you'll pay, don't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I would also want to add to that. This is from my curator's black box, I would want to say. If it
I still
wasn't,
want to see that book. I still want that book.
if it wasn't because of my experience and my working relations with people in South Africa in the 90s, I would not be sitting in this chair. South Africa provided me with an opportunity that I will always cherish. And some of the people are still alive, the likes of Bongi Lomo, the likes of Peti Mautwa, the likes of late Dave Kolowane, you know, the likes of Temba Mabaso, who used to be the education officer at the Johannesburg Art Gallery, and you know, the likes of Tumelo Mosaka, the likes of Tembinkosi. I mean, those were younger than me, and the likes of Bongi Mkize, and the likes of there are many. The list is endless. And my experience at the Johannesburg Biennale in 1997 was also kind of pinnacle, and a free university. I want to refer it as. So it is. I've always said to most of the younger people that if I'm given an inch, I'll take a mile. And
can I ask you a question though?
Yes.
What did you think about the Stellenbosch Triennale?
Well, it's unfortunate that I was unable to come and see the Triennale. But I think it's a starting point. And Stellenbosch needs it because of what it is. And besides what is happening in Cape Town, there's something, the more platforms we have, the better.
Yes.
And I think, and I'm sure when you are beginning a project, there are always hiccups. But for Stellenbosch, it's needed. And for the curatorial team, I say to them, congratulations. And for being able to pull it through, and there's a needs, let it not be a once-off event. And I'm sure we are running out of time, but there are questions which I would want you to also respond to.
I can answer.
Munya will say, where does art stand when a global crisis hits all populations? What role does art play when people priorities are turned towards basic needs, such as shelter, food, and water?
Thank you, Munya, for that question. I think that art always stands supreme. I think that artists, you know, sometimes the experiences are overwhelming, you know, but I also believe that we reign superior to the circumstances. And I think that artists are creative thinkers. They don't have to wait for the state to decide. They have to, you know. I think that we have made this COVID situation a landmark, like as if it's some sort of huge block to, you know, develop ourselves and stuff like that. But I think that COVID-19 is nothing. COVID-19 is nothing according to what we are capable of doing as human beings. You know, we are. I believe that creative people or people in the creative realm are demigods. Can't be defined by a virus. Nah, it doesn't work like that. You're gonna do well, and we will do well. I believe that. Yeah.
Well, I would also just want to add towards what Munya is saying. What role does art play when people's priorities tend towards basic needs such as food, shelter, and water. I was asked a question in around this time. I remember it was the 21st of October when we were at the Tate, which was curating
Mm.
Africa Forum, when I just started my job at the National Gallery. And I spoke about the Zimbabwean pavilion, the first Zimbabwe pavilion. I remember one woman asked me and said to me, asked me about the budget, and I told him that told the lady that the budget for the Venice Biennale Zimbabwe pavilion was 300,000 US dollars, and she asked me whether I could give that money to the starving people in Zimbabwe.
Wow!
And my answer,
especially that word, starving.
Yeah,
it's a very problematic word.
Very, very problematic. But I say to the lady, I do not work for the World Food Program, or I do not work for the Ministry of Social Welfare. My role and function is to curate exhibitions at any cost. And I don't know about the starving people you're talking about. So there are all these things that sometimes we want to put art over shelter, food, and water. And I agree with you that, I mean, art is high up there. When Zimbabwe has gone through all these crises, the resilience of the Zimbabwean artists, both in Zimbabwe and in the diaspora, is something which which continues to inspire cultural workers like me, because you can see light under the tunnel.
You know what's funny is that I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, and I was thinking about that song Jerusalem.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Right. So Jerusalem became a global, phenomenon. Yeah. But people don't understand kuti isusu tine Jerusalem yedu yekuZimbabwe.
Jerusalem. Yeah, exactly. Yes, Jerusalem.
I just think that, sometimes these realities are based on who sees it first. It's either who sees it first or who wants to capitalize on it and make a reputation on that. But we have been cultural ambassadors from the beginning of time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The last question I would like to take is from Vivian. In a world where we have been dictated by the West in terms of who we are as African artists, how would we as African artists take back our identity amidst the combination of Africanness, and how would the residence model fit into this situation, into this solution?
That's a hardcore question.
Yes.
Do you want me to answer it, or should
No,
I
would want you to answer it. I mean, this is your platform.
This is my platform.
I'm just here as a
facilitator.
A facilitator, yes.
This world has not acknowledged us as important people. This world has a very weird way of acknowledging our talents. So if you think about fashion designers, painters, people of that nature. And this world has a weird way of showing its racist connotations towards us as people of color. You can wake up and read on the news and see that, you know, this country is going through this and whatever, you know. But in terms of like as a people, especially Black people, I'm going back to what we talked about earlier. We are on the negotiation table. We don't own it. That's the problem. We are not in places. We don't have, you know, art collectors there who are Black are not out there saying like, I own so and so. I own so and so. You know, like they're not, you know, we don't have a lot of Black galleries, you know, administrating the realities and stuff like that. With the events that have happened this year, I think that we should learn a lot as how the world has responded to us. We contribute we contribute a lot to the world. But what does the world say to us? The world says that you're dark-skinned, you have a big nose, you're this, you're this, so therefore you're not human enough. But we had people like Mansa Musa. We had people like Mansa Musa, people like, you know, emperors who are more wealthier than Bill Gates. You know, our art is more divine than anything else. It's more divine, even if like we were to talk about like King Solomon's temple in the Bible. You know, we are the demigods, you know, as African people. We are the people, you know. I just think that we are suffering from a repression because the world just does not want to acknowledge us, you know. And that some of these dynamics that we're going through, for example, what's going on in Nigeria, the SARS thing, and SARS and whatever, I think that is, it's a generated way to make us look like as if we are ungovernable as Africans.
Wow.
You know, African people just want liberation. They just want, African people just want to be free, and not only free from Black oppression and white oppression, but also like inflicted oppression based on colonialism, apartheid, and all these things. Like, you know, like we never chose these things as people, you know, like we were just born into these things, you know. So to answer what Vivian said, I just think that we just need to we are in places where we say that, okay, cool, I'm here. Respect me as an African.
Or as a human being.
As a human being, yeah. If I go to Monaco and I want to see that racing course there, Ferrari and all that shit, and I'm wearing, like, I'm good, I'm there, I'm here, like, I'm enjoying myself. Respect me as a Black man watching this race course. If I'm gonna be in the fashion, you know, like New York Fashion Week there, I'm there as an African person. Respect me as an African. I'm there because I need to understand what fashion is going on. Like, what is fashion, you know, globally? I need to understand it as an African person. Respect me for being there as an African person. You know, like if I need to step in any kind of realm as an African person, respect me as an African. And that's what it is, you know, the respect as, you know, being African. Um, it goes back to that conversation we had where I was saying to you, like, who owns the culture? You know, like that kind of thing, you know. And I feel like we are constantly pushed into the negotiating table. Like we have to negotiate for all other things, you know, like our value, especially our value system. Because some people who are not from Africa are coming into Africa and saying like, cool, I see that you're hot, I see that you're this artist, blah, 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 whatever. But I'm gonna pay you this. But my value is this. So why are you treating me like that?
Is it because Africa is only there for raw materials? That's how Europe, America, and Asia are now perceiving Africa, or they've always perceived Africa as a producer of raw materials.
It is. So I'll explain it to you. So it's like it has always been the culture. It's just that I didn't want to say it like this. I'm sorry, sir, but I'll say it.
No, that's
Like
okay.
the art in Africa is real estate. It's the new colonialism.
Okay.
It's a
I'm
new
sure
world.
I hear you, but I just wanted to say that Africa has contributed immensely to the global art world, but Africa has not been able to harness its contribution. The European modernism, if it was not because of Africa, we would not be talking of European modernism.
Can I show you a book that I've been reading?
Yes.
Um, so I've been reading this book now during quarantine. I don't know if you know this book.
Oh, yes.
This one.
Yeah, 7 stories. Yes.
Yes.
17 beliefs and yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this book has been the most, this book has been very important to me. Why I say so is that I felt that the people in the 1900s, and I'd say not 1900s, but in the 70s, there was some sort of back and forth tension based on colonialism and post-colonialism. And I felt like, even people like Tafuma Guza, he's in there, Tafuma Guza was also part of the, like Great Moor and Bag Factory and things like that. David Koloane, Joe Trapler and people of that nature. And when I read books like this, they affirm me to the real hard work people of you that have, done.
But I want us to, I'm sure this conversation can go on and on. But it will be important for us to look back. I want to look back at the International Congress of African Culture that took place here in 1962. There is one person who comes out very outspoken and very important, and it's none other than Selby Mvusi, who challenged Frank McEwen, who challenged the former director of MoMA, Alfred Barr. And I would like us, it's an archive which I would like to share with the people like, the people who are listening today. And possibly to try to frame yet another conversation and revisit Selby Mvusi's philosophy about what Africa is and who is an African artist, and how we continuously being defined by those that want to remain in the teaching. Selby Mvusi was in exile here, and later on also stayed in Ghana and stayed all over the place. But he is one of the forgotten heroes of African modernism, and as a critical thinker and outspoken. And just thinking about 1962, of how he challenged the status quo, and how he challenged those who wanted to define us, is something which I think is very special. And I would like to end our conversation there, but I think I will talk to my team.
I want to say something about you. I think that you, at some point, you have been somebody who has embraced some of the. You were part of these people's dialogue. You were part of, like you're somebody who has embraced and absorbed so much information based on these people, Every time I speak to people here in South Africa, they always say Raphael, Raphael, Raphael. I think that your name has always been held in high regards, even people in Angola, speak about you highly. And I think that you should not take yourself lightly.
No, No, I'm not. Because I think there are those that came before us, that came before me. I mean, Selby Mvusi, if he was challenging the status quo in 1962, that's really in the middle of apartheid, in the middle of the Rhodesian.
Of course.
Right here in this gallery. And to me, it's something which I think I'll talk to my team so much that we can go back to the archive. There's a magazine, which I will remember the name of the magazine, but I would like to share the statement from Selby Mvusi and to frame our next Harare conversations, and the likes of Mohau to be part of this conversation, so much that at least, and thank you very much, Mohau, and all of you listeners, pardon, Vivian, Asand, and many others who are listening, because I think it is very important for us to be able to have these dialogues in the African soil, so much that at least we can interrogate some of these questions. But I would like to share this book, which just arrived today. It's called Grieve and Grievances. It was mooted by none other than Okwi, but he was unable to contribute to this very book. But it has been published by Phaidon, and I think it's a very important book, and also honoring one of the key. So I would like to end the conversation looking at that book, Grieve and Grievances, which is also interrogating the issues that are happening in America today. Whatever is happening with America today, it's also happening in Nigeria today. It could happen here, it could happen anywhere. But I would like to thank you, Ronald, for agreeing to be part of this conversation, and also want to thank all our listeners out there for being part of the Harare conversation, and keep watching the space so that at least we can keep interrogating our practice and keep interrogating the role and functions of our cultural institutions. And I would also want to maybe pose a question to you. What role do you think our cultural institutions should play?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I think they need to nurture the young generations. They need to work harder in that regard to make sure that because when you talk about the younger generations, they're very vibrant. There's a lot of energy that comes from there, you know. And sometimes when people are in a pinnacle, they are in that, you know, like they are the, you know, the important people whatsoever. Sometimes we forget that the young people need to be watered. They need to be nurtured and stuff like that. And I think that that's the most important part. The young folk need to be watered in. They need to be nurtured. Yeah.
They're like a plant. If you don't water it,
Yeah.
it will wilt.
It works. Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much, Ronald, and thank you very much, listeners. Thank you to my team, Valerie, Rico, and everybody at the National Gallery of Zimbabwe. Till next time, keep watching the space. Harare Conversation is here for you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Muchatuta.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Baba.
Sure.